You know, there are some places on Earth that feel like they weren't meant to be explored. There are these vast, empty guardians of secrets, landscapes that literally swallow history whole. Today, we're going into one of those places, and we're going to follow the story of the man who dared to pull its lost world back out of the sand. Those are the words of our explorer, Aurel Stein. And he's talking about a place the locals call the Sea of Death. Yeah, as in, you go in, you don't come out. And this terrifying, absolutely formidable landscape was the one thing standing between him and the secrets of the ancient Silk Road. Okay, so let's really get into this. To understand what he discovered, you first have to understand the obsession. Because the Taklamakan Desert, well, it wasn't just a patch of sand. It was a legend. I mean, can you just imagine the stories told along the Silk Road? Whispers around the campfire of these grand cities, full of life, bursting with culture and knowledge. And then, one day, just gone, vanished, buried under the relentless march of the dunes. These weren't just spooky stories. For a certain kind of person, they were a siren call. And that person was Aurel Stein. Now, here's what's so important to get about him. He wasn't some treasure hunter looking for gold. He was a scholar, a historian through and through. He wasn't chasing riches, he was chasing knowledge. He was trying to piece together the ghost of an entire civilization from the tiny clues it had left behind. So, with these legends fueling his academic fire, Stein sets off on his second massive expedition from 1906 to 1908. But look, this was no simple archaeological dig. The sheer scale of what he attempted is, well, it's just mind-boggling. He put it perfectly himself. He was stepping into a complete unknown, a virgin field. He wanted to be the first one to systematically map and dig up these rumored lost cities. And antiquarian research is just a fancy way of saying he was a history detective, hunting for the stories told by old buildings, scraps of paper, and forgotten art. And this is the part that is just so hard to wrap your head around. Over 2.5 years, his journey covered almost 10,000 miles. That's by foot, by camel, through some of the most brutal deserts and highest, most punishing mountain ranges on the entire planet. This wasn't just some academic project. It was an absolute epic of human endurance. And that endurance, it was about to be tested to its absolute breaking point. Because a place like the Taklamakan doesn't give up its secrets for free. Stein was about to learn that discovery comes at a very, very high price. Just look at this. It's an ocean of sand, stretching to every horizon. This was their entire world, for months at a time. Days so hot they were scorching, nights so cold they were freezing, and the constant, nagging fear of running out of water, hundreds of miles from another living soul. The physical toll was just staggering. They weren't just fighting the blistering heat of the desert. They were also battling the freezing, oxygen-starved conditions of treacherous, ice-covered mountains. It was a journey of the most brutal extremes imaginable. And here it is, the brutal, visceral reality of that price. While crossing a mountain range at 20,000 feet, Stein got such severe frostbite that he lost all the toes on his right foot. But the incredible thing is, he considered it a worthy sacrifice for the knowledge he was bringing back. But after all that hardship, all that pain, the desert finally started to reveal its secrets. And what Stein began to find was truly beyond anything he could have possibly dreamed of. And here's the great irony. The same extreme, punishing dryness that made the desert so deadly also created a kind of archaeological miracle. The total lack of moisture meant that things that should have rotted away ages ago, things like wood, paper, even delicate fabrics, they just didn't. They were perfectly preserved, creating a time capsule that Stein himself said could rival the tombs of Egypt. This is what he saw, a structure like this ancient watchtower, just jutting out of the sand like a ghost. Can you imagine stumbling upon this? This building was last used in the 3rd century AD. It stood silent for over 1,500 years, just waiting. It's like finding a phantom sentinel still on duty over a long-dead world. And at sites like one called Nia, he didn't just find empty buildings. He found life, frozen in time. He walked into houses where the furniture was still in place, almost as if the owners had just stepped out for a minute. And inside, he found their archives, hundreds of wooden tablets detailing their daily lives, written in a language that had been lost for centuries. He was reading their mail, their legal contracts, their personal worries. It was a direct window into their world. But as absolutely incredible as all these finds were, Stein's quest was really building towards one final, spectacular discovery. Near an oasis town called Dunhuang, at a sacred site honeycombed with caves, lay the greatest secret of all. He had been hearing rumors, whispers about a hidden chamber, a place that had been sealed up and forgotten for centuries. After some very careful negotiations with the local guardian of the caves, he was finally allowed to investigate. So, what could possibly be so special hidden behind a simple wall of mud and plaster? Well, when that wall was finally opened, the first thing he saw in the flickering lamplight was this: piles upon piles of manuscript rolls, stacked 10 feet high to the ceiling. Stunning silk paintings with colors so vibrant it was hard to believe they'd been in the dark for 1,000 years. Turns out, a local monk had accidentally stumbled upon a hidden cave, just crammed floor to ceiling with ancient art and knowledge. Just think about that for a second. An entire library of priceless knowledge sealed away around the year 1000 AD, probably to protect it from invaders, and then it was completely forgotten. For 900 years, it just sat there in the dark, perfectly preserved, untouched by time, just waiting. And the sheer amount of material was staggering. Stein managed to carefully pack and transport 24 heavy cases filled with manuscripts, and another 5 huge cases filled with paintings, embroideries, and other priceless art. 29 cases of perfectly preserved history. So here's the crucial thing to understand. This wasn't just some random pile of old books. This was a snapshot of the Silk Road at its absolute peak. It was a cultural crossroads. Inside was the Diamond Sutra, the world's oldest dated printed book. But there were also official documents, personal letters, poetry, written in a dozen different languages, some of which scholars didn't even know existed. It's one of the most important archaeological finds of the 20th century because it completely rewrote our understanding of that entire period, showing us a world far more diverse and interconnected than anyone had ever dared to imagine. And that really brings us to the final thought, doesn't it? Aurel Stein's incredible journey proves that history isn't always lost forever. Sometimes it's just sleeping. It really makes you wonder, if a treasure trove of knowledge like this can lie hidden, completely forgotten for almost a millennium, what else is still out there, just waiting